Hello, and welcome back, everyone. I'm Vicki Thompson. We've met before. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce our next presenter and today's keynote speaker. Tracy King, CEO, Chief Learning Strategist, and founder of Inspired Ed. Inspired Ed is a strategic consulting and instructional design agency specializing in the business of learning, educational strategy, and transformational experience design. Tracy's been featured on NBC, ABC, Forbes, US News, and is an award-winning author of Competitive Advantage, creating continuing education that's profitable, sustainable, and impactful. A catalyst for transformation. They're a thought leader, master learning designer, DELP scholar, and neuro-inclusive advocate. Please join me in warmly welcoming Tracy King to the stage.
Hey, thank you for that warm welcome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Cadmium, for having me. These are my peeps, so I'm excited to be in this room. One additional disclosure before we get rolling. I'm neurodivergent. I'm autistic with ADHD. And so you might see me stim, you might see me close my eyes or tick, you might see me move in ways that aren't typical or the norms for a keynote speaker. Let's challenge those norms. And I just wanted to invite everyone to feel like this is a welcoming space. No matter the norms, no matter your neurotype, you have an important contribution to make. So thank you for allowing me to be my authentic self today, and let's do this. So today I have some really important ideas to share with you. We are in a consequential moment when it comes to the AI rollout and what it's going to mean for us personally, for our organizations, for the workforces we represent, and for professional development. And so I'm excited for you to be here today because this is going to be more of a substantive keynote than you might be used to. If you were hoping for floofy, you don't know me. So when historians look back on the development of AI, they're going to pinpoint 2023 as the year when AI caught up with the human IQ. Last year, AI passed the GRE, the bar exam, and the US medical licensing exam. Last year, AI caught up with human-level reading proficiency, with competition-level mathematics and visual proficiency as well. And so when we think about the course of how technology has transformed over these past few decades and how this used to be having information at our fingertips, and we think about how joining a computer to the internet radically shifted our reality. I can tell you that I didn't grow up with computers. And when I went to high school, there was one computer in the entire school. It was in the library, and students were not allowed to touch it. When I went to college, I had to go to a computer lab to access word processing and the internet. Fun times. But when I graduated in 1993, my job was in front of a computer all day long. My job did not exist when I went to college. And so when we think about how fast things have changed, that happened over 4 years. And now we're neither bound by cords nor country boundaries. Information is ubiquitous. The workforce is global, and learning is 24/7. The internet remade learning, but AI is here to remake the entire world. And learning, once again, it's going to be more profound. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be faster than we could ever imagine, and you're here to see it. The fact is, AI is shifting what we learn, how, and why. AI is going to be more disruptive than anything that we've seen before, even COVID. And so words like unprecedented and pivot and new normal are making a comeback. Because if you blink just for a moment, you're going to open your eyes to a whole new world. And if you don't blink, the pace of change is so rapid that it's just coming at us at breakneck speeds, and it can feel overwhelming. But I hope you feel that it's exciting today too. as we talk about this snapshot in time and the opportunities that it offers to us. So thinking about where we are with AI development right now, when we think about learning and professional development and the workforces that we represent, the share of Americans that use ChatGPT has doubled in the last year from 8% to 20%. ChatGPT launched in the end of 2022, if anyone recalls. Were you one of the 1 million people who tried it out in the first 5 days? 1 million people tried it in the first 5 days. Now, to put that into perspective, it took 10 months for Facebook to achieve 1 million users, and it took Netflix 3.5 years to achieve 1 million users, and now ChatGPT is approaching 200 million users. January alone, 1.6 billion searches were conducted. So it's kind of a big deal. And that's just one tool. These are the top 3 horses that are in this massive high-stakes race to become the GPT tool, the LLM that's embedded in our day-to-day. Now, as of the end of June, you can see that Claude 3.5 is considered the fastest and the most intelligent model. It's about twice as fast as Claude 3. It's better at writing, it's better at coding, it's better at its visual capabilities. Now, the CEO of OpenAI is just like, hold on. Now, 4.0 was nothing. What we got cooking in the back, now that's gonna show you something. What we've got in development is really the thing. And I have to believe that it's gotta be something, because if you've heard the announcement, Apple has partnered with OpenAI in order to integrate ChatGPT into iPhones, which is gonna put AI in the hands of 1 billion people worldwide. Now, when we think about that, when we just think for a minute what that could mean in terms of tools and use cases, it's really going to turn and burn some near constant disruption as people are playing with these toys. Now, let me give you an example from the learning space. Learning pros are already using AI, ChatGPT, the other LLMs, in order to do administrative tasks, in order to do some organizing and some writing, right? Some drafting. But that's kind of like using a race car for a target run. What's happening and what's in beta right now, if you've taken a look at Google's Notebook LLM, is being able to upload content, think about content as data, and AI turning it out into different customizable formats. So you can upload some study notes into Notebook LM, and you can get a study guide, you can get quizzes, you can get an FAQ, and you can get an interactive podcast. So just imagine you have a learning goal, and you've uploaded some study notes, some raw content into Notebook LLM, and you propose a solution or a challenge, learning challenge, an objective that you want to learn about. And it will generate this 2-person podcast and begin a conversation about your learning goal. And you can click the join button and you can join the conversation. You can ask a clarifying question. You can ask for a contextual example. You can redefine the parameters of the conversation, and you can interact with these AI tutors. Interesting. So what's happening is AI is shifting how we create, how we deliver, and how we measure learning. Let's talk about what that looks like. First, AI is becoming a partner with us in creating learning, and right now we see that in terms of curating content. Soon, massive raw data, content libraries will be able to be searched and return really intelligent results against a learning goal. If you're familiar with Articulate 360, they've got their beta rolling out this summer of content to course creation in Rise, and it'll come out in Storyline later this year, early next year. And what that looks like is you upload your assets. They could be just content assets, media assets, whatever you got, photos, and the AI will, against your learning objectives, create courses. And it will create the modules, and it will write the connective copy for you to edit versus to compose. It'll create the knowledge checks. You can have it create video. You can have it create summaries and ultimately create your marketing copy. Now, what AI is returning right now in these beta products is knowledge hierarchies. It doesn't yet know how to apply the best practices of learning design. We'll see how that goes. But really, really impressive stuff. Eventually, when AI learns to be, what do we want to say? Accurate. When AI returns results that are actually accurate, it is going to become one of our subject matter experts. So you just wait and see. Next, AI is becoming a partner in delivering learning. Now, what that's looking like right now is like some of this articulate stuff, just like drafting stuff for us, but what it's going to look like is personalized and adaptive learning experiences. At first, it's going to look like live AI assistants. That's what's in beta, and that's what we can see and play with right now. And this is going to change what we think about the dynamic of being a student and being an instructor. When AI, you can interact with AI about the content that you're learning about, and AI is your tutor, your coach, and eventually your instructor. We're going to see personalized learning pathways, and they'll be adaptive based on assessments, which is going to be really exciting. Something we've been talking about, what we wanted on our wish list for years and years and years as learning designers, and now it's coming to fruition. We're already testing avatar lecture conversations. And conversation AI is one of the tools in the space that's really coming out, and Gen Z is having a good time playing with it. And ultimately, what is going to happen is you'll be able to select a person, historical or living, and a topic of conversation, and this person, and the AI will generate a conversation in that person's voice. So if you want to learn about the civil rights movement from MLK, if you want to learn about string theory from Einstein, you'll be able to do that. What I love is coming online are native language translations. I mean, just imagine the amount of barriers that are going to come down when we have native language translation and when we have greater access to AI-enabled accessibility. Just think about all of the people that will have an easier access to our learning products when AI is able to build that bridge for us. But really what I want you to pay attention to is dynamic assembly. So imagine the day when you open an AI ChatGPT or other GPT window, and instead of asking it to create a summary or some copy or draft learning objectives for you, you input a learning challenge, and you ask for a solution in the learning format of your choice. That's where we're going. Once we achieve content accuracy, AI is going to be able to return knowledge-based learning to you with a well-crafted prompt and a couple of clicks. That right there is going to change your business model. And finally, AI is becoming a partner with us in measuring learning, which is also very, very exciting. First, we're probably going to focus more on authentic assessment and harnessing data in new and exciting ways. But what's coming online that a lot of people aren't really talking about yet, but is easy to forecast, is that because of the rich data that we'll be able to access and to report upon, we're going to be assembling skills-based portfolios on the scale of 1. And so your skills-based portfolio eventually is going to become more important to you than academic degrees. We're going to be deploying adaptive assessments that are going to measure knowledge, skill, and mastery. We're really limited to knowledge at this point. We have some skill-adapted assessments, but this is really going to open up an entirely new area for us. We're going to be able to identify skills gaps in individuals and in organizations, and that's going to help us to plot our job task analyses. It's going to be able to help us build JTAs. It's going to help us develop a skills architecture within organizations that are going to guide employers on how to hire for the skills that they need for their organization and guide career professionals through that organization and also through their careers. This is going to make it easier for us to map job roles to career opportunities and to training, and it's going to really change the way we think about hiring. which we're going to talk more about in a few minutes. So when we're used to think about AI as a tool, right? We're used to thinking about it as something that helps us make something that we already do faster, cheaper, maybe better. But where we're headed is so much more. The capabilities are so much deeper and so much more impressive. Where AI is evolving far exceeds these capabilities. We're about to step into these AI-enabled complex problem solvings and process support probably about a decade faster than was originally predicted. So as a result, AI is becoming not a tool but a partner technology, and it's transforming the anatomy of work, not just automating tasks and routine things, but stepping into non-routine things, into complex work processes. And some of the jobs and work functions that are expected to be most impacted in the near term are office support, marketing and sales, customer support, software engineering like coding or product development, IT, website design and maintenance, research and development, and education. Does your association do any of those things? The White House report on AI is warning us that the disruption to work outside of routine and administrative tasks is going to be disrupted, and McKinsey agrees. In their recent AI report, they predict that half of today's task work and activities could be automated between 2030 and 2060, which is not that far off. So, wow, that's a lot, right? That's a lot of change. That's a lot of exciting things, but that's a lot of what? What's happening? What is that going to look like? How is that going to affect me, our association, our learners, the workforce that we represent? Because AI is changing our work, how humans and machines collaborate. It's changing how we create, deliver, and measure learning. It's changing our business operations. It's changing the career landscape of our members. So, what else do we have to adapt to in this moment, Tracy King? Well, there are a few things. There are a few things for us to talk about. As we navigate this evolving landscape, there's a word of caution that's warranted. And these are some of the things that we want to address in our strategy that we'll talk about later. But some of the things that are really kind of speed bumps in the rollout of AI right now. The first really important one is bias. Now, when you access any kind of GPT, behind the scenes, underneath the hood of that tool is an LLM, a large language model. And that large language model has eaten up the internet, libraries, media, and the LLMs and the competing platforms that we talked about just a minute ago have a lot of shared, freely accessible content, and then they have some proprietary content, some content that they have uniquely acquired for their LLM, which is what makes their output distinct. But when we think about all of the things on the internet, when we think about everything that's been consumed in the World Wide Web in order to create AI intelligence, some good stuff out there, some not so good stuff out there. And so, of course, behind the scenes, LLMs, the companies are really trying to program for weeding out bias, for helping AI tell the truth, for helping AI figure out what's factual, and so that we can have better results. But right now, AI does still return biased results, inaccurate results. And so it's up to us as humans to continue to fact check AI. When we think about accuracy, the not so friendly term that we have to call it out is AI hallucination, because AI does outright lies. AI just gets in there and it makes up events, it makes up stories, it makes up people and places and things. It does not necessarily cite sources correctly, and so we can't rely on it to be accurate at this point. AI has a tendency, all from just like a smidge of this isn't quite accurate to outright falsehoods. And so one example of how this is kind of crazy when we're in business and we're using AI tools is Air Canada. They had a traveler who was chatting with their AI chatbot and was receiving information about a flight that they wanted a refund about. And the AI chatbot returned inaccurate results. And Air Canada was like, I'm sorry, that's not our policy. We're not going to be refunding this flight. And the traveler was like, let's see. Took Air Canada to court and won. And so we have to take care with the results that AI generates on behalf of our organizations. AI also represents a security risk at this point. It's demonstrated itself to be a privacy and data security hazard. And if you've ever used ChatGPT, are you one of the 200 million at this point? Yeah. You'll know that you're greeted with a screen that warns you not to add anything confidential or anything sensitive in nature to ChatGPT, because they use that content in order to not only return your results, but in order to feed the LLM, to inform it, to help it master new material, to help it learn how to respond to humans. So thank you for your service. But Samsung is an example of a company that just 2 weeks after the ban was lifted on using ChatGPT, some employees entered proprietary coding, source code, into ChatGPT, as well as some internal communications. So now that's out there. And now they, of course, have this massive data breach for their company that they're quite unhappy about. And there are other companies as well that have clamped down on ChatGPT and other LLMs, like Amazon, like Walmart. JP Morgan has outright banned the use of employees using ChatGPT. And it's something that every organization has to think about. What are the parameters? What are your safeguards in order to ensure that your data is taken well care of? Ethics is a big pause for us right now, as there's so many unknowns in the development of AI intelligence. Right now, there isn't an agreed upon set of principles that everyone is operating upon in order to keep us safe, to ensure things are responsibly created and to do no harm. The research and data community has been working on a set of guidelines, but we can expect that anything that we create is going to need constant refinement as we continue to butt up against some unintended consequences. But it's important for us to do that work because, as you might imagine, ethics is the reason why we have a lot of legal challenges in the courts right now, even before the US government has even put forth a framework for how we're going to approach regulating and legislating AI use. The legal cases they're out there, they're crazy, and a big part of it is copyright, because AI has consumed a lot of content that belongs to specific humans, and it's not returning, it's not telling you who that content belongs to, it's just using it. And so that's why anytime we use ChatGPT to create content, that content doesn't belong to us. It can't be copyrighted at this point. And that's why you'll see AI disclosures, and that's why you should be using them too. And so on top of that, a brief overview of some of the legal challenges are data harvesting, what's on and off limits for these LLMs to grow and to mature, copyright infringement, of course, what's copyrightable, who owns what an AI bot generates, privacy and data security, liability, and libel. So this is an interesting story. A chat GPT it was a chat GPT, returned results about a specific person saying that they had been indicted for a serious and heinous crime. It was categorically false. That person is suing, and they just might win. So all of these challenges are really putting some obstacles in the way of the total rollout of AI. They're things that we should be concerned about. They're things that we should plan around how in our personal and organizational use. But once these hurdles are cleared and the game board is set, you can expect the tech rollout to be extraordinary, beyond your wildest imagination. Something else to consider as we think about how AI affects us and our business, we think often about our immediate AI use. AI models, they consume vast amounts of energy. They consume so much energy that a June report is titled, "The Rise of AI Threatens to Explode the US Electricity Demand and Overburden the Grid." This increase is expected to put such a significant burden on our electricity grids that we can expect outages. We can expect some unreliability in our access to electricity, because AI's computational power doubles every 100 days. And so the consumption of power by AI is taxing the global networks to support it. Oh, and a third of AI data centers are located in the United States. And so that leads us to an inflection point. It's not just what we do with AI, it's not just the new ways that we might collaborate with AI that we need to keep our eyes on, but how do we ethically grow this intelligence and sustain it in a way that's human and supports us? To answer this demand for energy, scientists are experimenting with alternative power sources and data management capabilities, such as AI-enabled organoids. Now, what's an organoid? An organoid is a three-dimensional tissue culture of brain cells that's grown in a lab. And it's connected with electronic hardware, connected to an AI LLM, and it creates a biocomputer. And these are able to recognize individual persons' speech patterns, to conduct complex nonlinear mathematical calculations, and they're now showing the capability to learn. Since about 2010, scientists have been deriving these brain cultures from stem cells in order to study neurodegenerative diseases and the like. But what we're finding is that the organoids will allow for deeper machine learning, that they're going to allow for parallel thinking and processing, that, you know, and not to mention that the brain tissue, as far as we know, has an undefined amount of storage, and it requires a fraction of the energy that a machine does. So I think we can agree that there are several ethical questions that we need answers to. One of them being, even if these 3D brain cultures never become sentient, who owns this brain power? Who owns this brain product? It kind of puts a new spin on unprecedented. But what we know, what is clear, is that generative AI is mastering our data. We're going to be able to find, prioritize, and report things in brand new ways. We'll be able to ask any who, what, when, where, how, why question, and AI will generate results for us. And so what this means for us, in essence, is that learners will be able to ask AI to dynamically assemble knowledge-based learning for them in their preferred format. And when learners are able to generate their own knowledge-based learning, the market for informational education is going to decrease. So the new ask that is emerging and that we're seeing right now is for skill and mastery. We're talking about upskilling and reskilling, competency-based learning. We're talking about mastery and assessments that showcase proficiency. We're talking about behavioral change and measurable results. So if you're already in the micro-credentialing space, you're really set up really nicely right now, because the big currency of this new skills-biased workforce is going to be proving your skills. It's going to be the micro-credentials, the badging. It's going to be the assessments that have shown our proficiency. So this is all happening within a context. This is happening within all of these current workforce pressures to align people with work, to fill open positions, to reduce turnover, to improve career satisfaction and compensation. So let's widen our lens for just a minute as we're talking about these disruptions, thinking about them not as a new learning technology, but realizing that how this skills imperative is really going to shift the very foundation of the workforce. Josh Burson is an awesome researcher, analyst. He's a thought leader in the global talent market. And he says skills are the metadata of people. I know my micro-credentialing and badging people are like, yeah. Yeah. Now, Josh said this back at the end of 2022 when ChatGPT was released. We've always known that skills are a priority for professional development and for career advancement, but this concept is gaining traction now because AI is going to help us see this through in the near term. Now, David Blake, who's the CEO of Degreed, and he's also the author of Expertise Economy. I highly recommend that book. It's a good one. He doubled down on this concept in March as he opened the Lens 2024 conference, saying that skills first is here. It's happening. The tools exist. Corporations like these are fully on board and they're forging the way forward. Skills-based hiring is more than 3.5 times more predictive of on-the-job success than academic degrees. Skills-based hiring is more than twice as effective than hiring based on work experience. And so we can see that skills being the most predictive way of hiring people, of advancing them through the organizations and through their careers, have to become our priority. They've got to become our bullseye. As the tools shift with AI, they're going to shift the norms toward a skills bias in the workforce, not academic degrees, not work experience, not credit hours or information-based exams. Those will still exist, but they're shifting down the list in terms of priority when it comes to hiring and promotion. And we can bet that as soon as employers become more sophisticated in their skills requirements, they're going to become more sophisticated in their skills testing in order to open the gateways for people to advance in their career. So the call to action is capability, it's proficiency, it's mastery, it's competence, it's performance. These are the outcomes that we need to strive for. The meat and potatoes of assessment-based certificate programs and digital badging, demonstrating skill mastery, that's the new priority. Blake says that jobs currently are the organizing unit of our economy, and we're about to exist in a future where skills are the organizing unit of careers, and thus ultimately of companies and the economy. We're shifting from an economy based on jobs to an economy based on skills. He goes on to talk about how those who are adopting a skills-based approach are 98% more likely to retain top talent. Those who adopt a skills-based approach are 57% more likely to respond to change positively and to innovate. And of course, innovation right now is really where it's at. And so we have to think about how this impacts our portfolio of learning and what that means for us moving forward in this age of enabled learning with AI, because the conditions are ripe now for us to make this shift our reality. It's going to happen, whether we join in or not. So it's important for us to find our opportunities, our place in it. One association example to take a look at is SHRM. SHRM's foundation recently announced a center of excellence that they've just launched to accelerate the adoption of skill-first hiring and career advancement. And part of that, one of their 4 major components, is an AI-based skills advisor. And this skills advisor is meant to advise both employers and employees on their skill journey and provide specific training, actions, and tools in order to advance against those goals. So this work right here is, they're big time promoting skilled credentials, skill-based certificate programs, micro-credentials, badging, apprenticeship, all of the program formats that we know help learners demonstrate skills or mastery, and they're calling on employers to either create these programs or to partner to create them. The SHRM Foundation, their research shows that 90% of employers say that, yeah, that's valuable to me, that's something I need, but only 15% of organizations are actually initiating it right now. So this right here in the middle, that's an opportunity for you to take advantage of, to get in there. Okay, so how we create, how we deliver, how we measure learning is undergoing revolutionary level change. Got it. There are some hurdles in this moment that, like bias, like not having a global framework yet for governing AI, like accuracy, like ethical considerations that are slowing its roll. And what that does for us is it gives us this precious moment to prepare for what's coming. And we know part of what's coming is a skills-first workforce. And so that makes us, arrive at this choice point. We have some really big choices to make for our organizations. And I have 5 recommendations, but before we get there, I want to talk about cameras. Once upon a time, Kodak dominated the camera and film market. George Eastman had a vision, and his vision would disrupt the photography industry as we know it. He wanted to shift from flat plates to rolled film, and once he mastered that product, Kodak created cameras, and they created film development processes that brought photography to the masses. Revolutionary. Kodak survived 2 world wars. They survived the Depression. They survived competing against Fuji. They were used by NASA in outer space, by the CIA in reconnaissance. The Kodak moment, right? Synonymous with a memory worth saving. Kodak even developed the first digital camera. Did you know that? They did. They dipped a toe into the technology, but they didn't commit to it. And eventually, they declared bankruptcy. So what happened? How do you go from inventing the next technology to still failing to meet the moment? Well, we can learn 3 important things. I went backwards, sorry. From Kodak, we can glean 3 important learnings. And the first is that they leaned too hard into their legacy business narrative. They didn't think that they were replaceable. They were a pioneer in photography. They made this photography ecosystem. They were unrivaled in their success. They even experimented with digital tech, and they introduced the first megapixel sensor. But they were hampered by the inertia to innovate. And this prevented them from transitioning into the new digital photography world. The second huge failure was not seeing this as an ecosystem shift. They saw this digital photography as a product, as a new tool, instead of an entirely new ecosystem of photography. Now, Kodak built the ecosystem, the film ecosystem in which they operated. And while they saw on the horizon that things were changing, and they even started to play in that space, they didn't fully commit. While they invented some of the technology, they didn't invest in it. And as a result, others dominated their market. Now, what happens when an ecosystem shift is that the market desire shifts. Kodak, embodied this "we know best" type of mentality because they dominated the market. They were Kodak. People were just going to continue to look to them for products and solutions because that's who they were. But the rise of digital technology created new desires in the market. Immediate photo development. No need for sticky chemicals. No more bad photos because you can just delete them. Access to editing software. Not even having to print photos at all, right? Entirely new world, which reduced the costs of participating in, as a photographer, photographing your memorable moments, but also, introducing the concept that anyone could take a good photo. The market appetite shifted. Now, third, because Kodak did not engage in the shifts underway, they experienced a catastrophic strategic failure. It wasn't just technology. It was the inability to create a strategy that would embrace a new business model as this landscape kept moving and evolving. They failed to recognize the ecosystem, and they failed to move with their business with it. And so that gives us some things to think about, because many associations lean into their legacy as their value proposition. We've ridden through all kinds of different learning trends and their learning technologies and formats, but this is not that. We're not just talking about adopting a new technology. Ultimately, we're talking about a new business model. Ultimately, we're talking about a new value proposition amid an ecosystem shift that's going to create entirely new market desires for our learners. And so we have to figure out what that means for us. So I have 5 things I want to share with you, and then I want to open up a discussion with you and talk to you about what you're seeing, quell some of the current concerns that you're feeling, and talk a little bit more about how we can personalize this for you. But these are some of the capabilities that are in development right now. Some of these things we'll see this year. Some of these things we'll see in the near term. Exciting things that we talked about at the top of our time together that are shifting the emphasis from knowledge to performance. Essentially, your performance will become your passport to opportunity in this new skill-based economy. Now, one of the ways to think about these new opportunities is to map them on the SAMR model, the SAMR model of EdTech adoption. Now, we're currently in the enhancement phase, right? We're applying AI to learning and assessment, dreaming into the modification component of the transformation phase. We're not yet quite fully ready to see into that top phase of redefinition, what that might mean for us. But if you set your sights quickly on mastering enhancement while building toward transformation, you're preparing yourself well. So what is this moment calling for us to do? First, I encourage you to experiment and to play. This moment is really about getting out there, seeing what these tools can offer to you, seeing what the use cases are for your business that you work for your industry, what role artificial intelligence is going to have moving forward for the skills that the workforce you represent will require. Because if we sit back, we're going to be set back. And so it's really important for us to get out there and to dive in. I liken it to like a Formula One racing car. Right now we have some manual cars available for us to test drive and to play around with. And soon there's going to be automatic cars and 0 to 60 roadsters, and we're going to mature to the Formula One race car. But if you haven't even been behind the wheel of a car to know how to drive it, you're not going to know what to do when everybody else is pedal to the metal in their Formula Ones. But I want to offer this one important caveat, and that's don't get attached to the tools, because becoming experts in the tools isn't the point, honestly, because the tools are going to change so much in the next year, and the technology is going to evolve so rapidly we're not even going to recognize it when we get back together at Spark next year. It's going to be kind of like my library card file in terms of how simple it will seem. We do need to get to work on crafting our AI strategy. We have to consider the caution markers that we talked about, consider the SAMR model that we talked about as you create your path forward, consider what this will mean for your business model. Your strategy should include AI disruption use cases for your business and the workforce you represent, and your strategy to monitor and address them. It should include opportunities that you intend to seize upon and your ethical responsibility, the human safeguards that you'll put in place. It's recommended to include an AI maturity model so that you can benchmark against that, operationalizing how you'll continue to revisit your strategy frequently as legislation and regulation and legal precedent sets the rules of engagement. And then consider how your business model is going to embrace this ecosystem shift. Don't be Kodak, resting on your legacy laurels and not investing in these shifts, because this is going to change the way we do business, for sure. I also encourage you to develop an AI policy for your organization. I just want to underline the imperative that we take the responsibility to define ethical use of AI. Our AI policy at Inspired Ed includes the context in which we apply AI tools, our guiding principles for grounding AI use into. It talks about what judicious use looks like, as well as how we commit to vetting the tools that we use. We're also clear about what's prohibited and what the violation of the policy looks like. Fourth, remember that AI is shifting what we do, what we learn, how, and why. And since information-based learning is going to become more widely accessible outside of handcrafted events and courses and PowerPoint decks, it becomes important to us to differentiate our learning portfolio, to prepare our learners with skills training. If you're primarily offering information-based learning, it's time to think about how to diversify. Think about how you might partner with organization partners in the workforce that you represent on mapping the skills that your industry needs, what's now and what's emerging, and then providing learning and assessments that can verify that those skills have been mastered. How might you be a major player in upskilling right now? How might you step up to the skills-first workforce table and be a major player? Finally, I want to offer, we need to prepare for proprietary AI. There are already train your own chatbots for like marketing and sales and customer service. You can get yourself one today. They're fun to play with. But soon you're going to be able to train your LLM with your proprietary content that you've been collecting and developing over the years. Your association has been providing training programs. And once you train your models, you can be the go-to source for that dynamic assembly that we were talking about earlier. So to get positioned for this, the first thing you need to really do is to own your content. So if you don't own your content right now, you're going to need to figure out get a legal team together in order to navigate those IP waters. But owning your content is going to be really important. And it's secondly really important to think about your content as data. Right now we think about it as these discrete and locked formats of learning, But what AI is going to ask us to do is to break that open and to realize that every piece of content and information is data, and we want to unlock them from those formats. Think about it as your ultimate body of knowledge. So all of the words, all of the media, all of that searchable and available for dynamic reassembly across knowledge hierarchies that are mapped to learner profiles within your domain, within your workforce. And finally, in order to ensure that your LLM is a do no harm, unbiased and safe place for your learners, we need to consider how DEIB parameters will be trained, will be tested, will be enforced in there. Now, the first iteration of this is going to look kind of like asking questions and returning like summaries, paragraphs, outlines, maybe some quiz questions, maybe some resources and references. But remembering Google's Notebook LLM being the starting point of their dynamic reassembly model, thinking about how content within your industry can be customized to a learner, a pool of one for anyone who wants to craft a prompt and make a couple of clicks in your proprietary Gen AI LM. So the potential that we're working toward here is one-size-fits-all learning is going to be retired. That finally the barriers to learning are going to be cleared. That everyone is going to have access to perfecting their skills portfolio, and that will be their passport to new and better opportunities. Oops, sorry about that. I'll just close this out because what I wanted to say next was, and that's what we're in this precious, precious moment. This moment that we have this brief breath before AI really gets rolling, really rolls out in its full and massive impact, changing this world in ways that we can't yet fathom. And so I want to thank you for being here at Cadmium Spark, because you're setting yourself up for success. You're meeting others in your space that you can network with to navigate these waters, to make the choices, to not just pivot in unprecedented times, but to set yourself up in order to become a full player and participant in this brand new world. I'm Tracy King. Let's transform our challenges into competitive advantages. Do we have a mic that we can pass?
Yeah, we've got two actually.
Okay, awesome.
I'll use this one on my
Okay.
hand. So we've got two mics on the back on either side, and I will represent folks who are live streaming and questions from the
Fantastic.
ARS. Great.
Yeah, so shoot me some questions. How can you see applying these concepts today? What challenges do you see in taking these concepts back to your organizations? Let's personalize this for you right now.
Is the question what challenges folks see?
Challenges, opportunities. How can we apply this in practice, in our context of practice?
Yes, so kind of on that note, how do you get started with integrating AI into your organization, and what are some recommendations that you have?
For getting started? Well, first of all, I would definitely lay down your strategy and your policy, because those are going to be your guiding lights toward how to integrate in ways that'll be meaningful for you as a business, which the business and operations side of AI, and also for the learners that you represent. And that strategy, looking at those opportunities and taking a look at how the workforce that you represent is being disrupted, you'll be able to see like what emerging skills do you want to address? What ways do you want to begin building a pathway toward skills-based learning and assessment? Because AI, once we're AI enabled in that regard, it'll be easier to build those programs. We're still playing with the tools right now. We're still playing in beta with many of the AI enabled proficiency type of tools and learning design systems. But if we don't know where we're headed, we won't be able to utilize those tools once they become available. So definitely at first, get connected with this skills first movement that is happening in the workforce, so that you can be prepared to know precisely where you want to dedicate your resources once your learning programs can be more integrated into the AI tools that are available. How does that land for you? Yeah. Other questions? You agreed with everything I said. Question here.
So what skills do we need to develop to future-proof ourselves?
I love this question. Definitely some AI literacy, so playing with the tools, right? Getting familiar with what's out there. If you were unfamiliar with any of the tools that I mentioned, then you have your homework, some things to discover and to learn about. We need to be thinking about how humans in our organization are going to be fact-checking AI, because anything that's produced right now, it might be great, it might not be great. So what safeguards are we going to be putting in place for that, which of course requires human skill. Not everyone is a content editor. We also need to be thinking about what I'm seeing in a lot of organizations is critical thinking training, security, information security training, and like the ethical and judicious use of the AI tools that we do on board. A lot of organizations are starting to train their own chatbots, for example. So like, how do we do that? Make them robust, make sure that they're accurate, that we're not Canada Air and we're getting sued because of the information that they're returning. And so learning the technology, critical thinking, editing, and ensuring accuracy and that our content is not biased. Those are some of the really big heavy lifts immediately. And then as we move forward into the types of programs that we envision that we're going to be creating, it'll become apparent to us what additional skills and technology acumen that we want to build around that.
We have a question from the audience response system. Do you have any top picks for areas where AI can be used to be more creative within the education space?
More creative. Well, I think that AI will definitely become a creative partner. I think right now it's more of an informational first draft partner. I think that in terms of creativity, it gives us options to consider versus having the blank page in front of us. But in terms of being the creativity, the origin of creativity, that's still a human function. There's a debate whether AI will catch up with human creativity or not. But right now, in terms of creativity and instructional design, it's being used a lot for helping us draft ideas so that we can, saves a lot of time for us and gives us alternatives to think about ways that we can present content that we might have not thought of. Yeah.
We have a question over here. Hi. Okay, my question is kind of more general. I think when I think of AI and I think of how much is coming and going to be changing, I kind of mirror it to kind of social media. Like when social media first came out, right, it was a very specific thing, and it kind of just became a world of its own now. And I think what social media has done is great, but also it's really kind of warped our perceptions as to how we're receiving our information, where we're receiving it, legitimacy, all these things, right? Which then now thinking of AI is going to be kind of the same frontier. And as you mentioned, just completely at a different pace. So my question is kind of like on the very personal level, like I start to see AI in social media, I'm starting to see it here. So is it better for us to start engaging with it instead of being kind of scared of it and see where it's kind of going? You know, the ethics is something that really holds me back. Like I don't want to give my brain to this database, but it's very real, right, to think about, and I think we do have to be participants in this, and so I don't really know what my question is, but that's kind of the theme of what I'm feeling here.
Yeah, I understand the concerns. I still encourage you to experiment and play. Consider for you what judicious use means to you, what parameters feel safe to you. But definitely you want to get out there and understand how it thinks, how to interact with it, what kinds of things it can provide to you, how it can support you in some of these more routine tasks to begin with. because only then can we dream into how it can carry non-routine task load. And so while, if you're not offering it your social security number and other really confidential information, and you're just playing with content that's not proprietary, it's more fun and playful than scary. And so that's a great place to start. And then you can build some trust with the tools. But of course, always, you're the human and you're in charge of the output, right? Are there tools that you're interested in that you might try or have tried? Not yet. Okay. Does anybody have recommendations of favorite tools that they're using to get started to try? Perplexity? Any others? ChatGPT, yeah, reliable. Yeah. Character AI is fun. Other questions?
Well, the one you just asked from the group also came into the audience response system, so thank you for reading ahead. But there's nothing else in here so far. Any other from the group? I have one question then. Have any of your organizations started developing an AI policy? And if they have, can you share where you started?
So I'm just going to say what we added to our submissions is people have to attest to the fact that if they use generative AI to generate content for any of their abstract or session submissions, that they have to let us know that.
Yeah, foundational. One resource I can recommend to you, Articulate has an AI policy guide that they've created. It's an ebook. It's a hyperlinked ebook, and there's some of the logic behind the creation of their AI policy. So check that out. Some good foundational work done there. Yeah, great question. So what are your takeaways today? What was an aha or something that you want to take back to the team and talk about?
Well, I'll share one. So for most of the day today, I've been listening to sessions from really just brilliant people. We have just a really smart group here. And a lot of the themes have been around being smart with how we use data, for instance, and taking smart approaches, or being strategic and how we're using and leveraging different tools. And I think this is the first that's really about being thoughtful, but not overly cautious, right? So we have to not just be smart and strategic, but be really thoughtful in walking that line.
Absolutely. Love it. Other takeaways in our last couple of minutes. We can talk about more over cocktails.
All right, well then, will you join me in just thanking Tracy with a round of applause? Thank you so much. I thought that was brilliant. As Tracy said, we're going to head over to cocktails to enjoy the wonderful company that's here tonight. I will encourage you also to stop by Tracy's booth. They're signing copies of their book as well as scheduling sessions if you haven't scheduled one yet. And then tomorrow morning we'll start again at 8 a.m. with breakfast and then our first session at 9. Thanks so much.